Guys, I'm excited. And the reason I'm excited is because we got some superhero content that didn't stink. Dreams can come true, baby. Black Adam, let's conversationalize. Alright, guys. I liked this movie. If you couldn't already tell. I am a fan of DC and where they're headed, baby. I think we have some good horizons on the horizon. Now, I'm not saying this movie hit it out of the park or changed the genre or anything like that, but it did do its job of being a superhero movie or a superhero project in general. Something that certain projects have not been very good at doing. Black Adam was able to be what it was meant to be, and some shows, for example, have not been that. She-Hulk, for instance, was meant to be a superhero show. That failed miserably. And Andor is meant to be a Star Wars show. That also failed miserably. Black Adam is a superhero movie. It's an anti-hero movie. It is an anti-hero movie. It succeeded. It is exactly what they said it was. And that is why I like it. Is they did not lie to us. They said that this was going to be a superhero anti-hero film. This was a film that Dwayne Johnson had been wanting to make forever. And he finally got to make it, and it was actually good. And I could not be more excited to tell you guys that. I mean, come on. After the couple years we've had of just mess from Marvel, this is way better than anything Marvel's put out in a while. And that is thrilling. Now, I know a lot of critics gave this movie flack. I heard one critic call it anti-entertaining and repetitive. I can see what they're talking about, repetitive, but definitely not anti-entertaining. It was thoroughly entertaining, at least for me. I've seen it twice now. I saw it yesterday, and then I saw it today, so I am caught up. I have a more solid viewpoint of where I stand with this movie. Now, it's not to say that there isn't anything that I didn't like about it. There is some stuff that I didn't like about it. But it's not stuff that's big enough, unlike She-Hulk and Andor, to sway me from, the whole project. I think the whole project, as a whole, was good. We start out with it's very much a Lord of the Rings style prologue about this is the story that this nation has been told for years of this champion that would come and rescue them from the oppressors. It's a story that we've heard a lot. It's a story that, there's a lot of tropes in this movie, and a lot of people probably aren't going to like that. It's definitely predictable in a lot of cases. That might be why the critics didn't like it. But I'm able to forgive that stuff, mainly because we're in a day and age where predictable sounds great. I would much rather have something be predictable and good than be unpredictable and terrible. Because that was one of the props I gave She-Hulk, was it was definitely unpredictable, but it was unpredictably garbage. This movie is predictably awesome. Some of you guys might not still be for that. That's okay, but for me, this is one of those, it's perfectly described as a popcorn movie. Not a ton of depth. It's not going to make you think for eternity about some deep philosophical message or whatever. But, it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie to just watch one night when you have nothing to do and you want to watch just demons get destroyed. Speaking of which, if you didn't already know, we will be going through some very heavy spoilers. But yes, this is in that, it's kind of like Aquaman, except Aquaman I did think had a lot more depth. By the way, Aquaman is one of my favorite movies, I think, period. That movie was made for people like me, for DC fans like me, who just love camp when it's done right. Not Batman and Robin, but when it's done right, again, not Batman and Robin, or Batman Forever, or a zillion others, When camp is done right, like Aquaman is, and like it's done in this movie a lot, I am totally on board. Back to plot. We start out with the story of Teth Adam. How he's this kid who knew that his city, Kandak, needed a hero, and he wanted to be that hero because there was this evil demon-worshipping king who was trying to make this evil demon-worshipping crown from this special material called Eternium. And apparently Eternium, I discovered, is essentially the kryptonite for beings who have the powers of Shazam. So, of course, Shazam and Black Adam, which is why it seems to weaken him in this film when he comes in contact with it. But once Eternium is found, the kid kind of just uses that. It takes that for himself to show the rest of the people in the Kondak who've been oppressed by this evil king that there is still hope and that they don't have to bow to the king always, and that a hero can come, a hero who doesn't have to obey the king's rules. So he has this like symbol thing that he does with his hands in the sky, and that everybody else does is kind of like a symbol of, yeah, we can beat these guys. We're rebelling against the oppressors. Again, it's like a trope. You've seen it 100 times. It's good 100 times. The king wants the kid to be executed, but right before he gets transported to Wizardland, where the wizards Black Adamize him, give him the magic to turn him into Black Adam, and he ends up destroying the evil king and essentially in the process destroying all of Kondak in the ensuing battle, at least as the prologue puts it. There is definitely a lot more important information added to all that later, and I actually enjoyed that. I will say, the reveals that happen later, I think were undermined, not by anything in the movie, but actually by the trailers, because in the trailers it was described, or at least the way the trailers made it sound, Black Adam became Black Adam and became vengeful because some bad guys killed his son. So I was already thinking that going in to watch the movie. But when the movie gave me something different than that from the beginning, I was confused and I expected it to change, which was more of a problem in the marketing than it was with the actual film. If I went in watching the actual film, I might have been more surprised, like without watching the trailers. If I had gone in watching the actual film, I might have been more surprised. But since the trailers already kind of spoiled that prospect, it made it a little less surprising. So again, flaw in the marketing, not in the movie. But we end up meeting this kid who narrated the whole prologue, and this kid is very, he's proud of his country and he wants his country to be free from the Intergang invaders. Now, Intergang is a group that has been in the DC comics before. They're essentially, how best to describe them? They're an evil gang who uses advanced technology as their means of evil, essentially. It's not that complicated. They're a bunch of just evil guys with a lot of high tech. But this kid is the son of this former university professor girl who has some Eternium as a family heirloom of hers that carried down from generation to generation to generation, and she's looking for the crown, that evil crown that was mentioned at the beginning of the film, that was made by demons to be, put in the possession of the demonic king, the evil king. And she's looking for the crown to keep it out of the wrong hands, specifically the hands of Intergang, because if she doesn't find it first, they'll find it soon. So she has this team of guys. They go and find it. She gets it, but then we discover that Intergang somehow knew where they were. One of the members of her team betrayed them, a guy named Ishmael, which we'll get to him later. And at the end of the day, in order to save her and her brother's life, her brother, who is very funny, by the way, a lot of the jokes in this movie landed for me, especially the one where he's in the car waiting outside the mountain while they're trying to infiltrate it to get the crown. When he's in the car singing, "Baby, come back!" That was hilarious. I got a good hearty laugh out of that one. But then he's captured, and she's captured, so her last resort is saying this, ancient words on the floor that are just carved on the floor, with the lightning bolt also carved in the floor, and that releases Black Adam from his prison, which we find out later is a prison. It's not actually a tomb, it's a prison. And then, of course, once Black Adam arrives, chaos ensues. And this was like where you feel in the movie, it's like, finally, some superhero action. I've waited so long. Some good superhero action. Let me emphasize good. There's been superhero action. It's just not been that great. The small 5-second Daredevil fight in She-Hulk was the most memorable in the past few months, which is unfortunate because that's a whole show, and this is a movie. And yeah, the superhero movie absolutely outbeat the longer show in terms of action by a landslide. But yeah, he is tearing these guys up. I mean, one guy comes to him at first. There's this funny moment where the main leader of the guys is like, okay, you go. And then that guy's like, okay, you go. And then the other guy's like, okay, you go, until the last guy's left. He doesn't have anybody else to order around. So he walks up to Adam. Adam grabs him, crispy fries him, turns him into fried chicken. Turns a bunch of other guys into fried chicken. There's one part where he flings a guy across the room and he's still holding that guy's arm in his hand and then just drops his arm because he flinged him out of his arm out of his socket. And so you immediately, realize this is definitely not your typical superhero, because most superheroes don't do that. This one does, because he's not really a hero, as they described many times in this movie. He's not a hero, he's an anti-hero. And now this is a common criticism I've had with just superhero movies in general as of late. They tend to want to turn bad guys into anti-heroes who were originally just, for the most part, just bad guys. But because they're making a movie about them and because they have to be the protagonist, they have to fight somebody else and have at least somewhat of a moral compass, so they have to make them an anti-hero. I'm not really a fan of that, and that's pretty much what they did in this movie. But I feel like the way they did it was believable, and that's kind of what sold me. They did it in a believable way enough to where I was like, okay, sympathetic backstory, I get it. They definitely emphasize that he's not a hero, which is what I appreciated. He's definitely not a hero. He's not a good guy, but he's also not completely a villain, but he could be, and ends up being one, if provoked. I'm pretty sure Dwayne Johnson described the character of Black Adam in this movie as a Superman who kills. Could not have described it any better. That is exactly what he is. In fact, like the opening action sequences, I was like, yeah, this is a Superman who kills people mercilessly, brutally, and viciously. So he destroys all the guys in the mountain. He blasts his way out of the mountain, and there's like an army of guys with tanks, and then there's military helicopters, and army of military with grenades. And it's funny because an unexpected things happens in this scene that's not predictable, in the sense that when the action scene starts, like everything is slow-mo because he's moving so fast, and he's essentially pulling a Quicksilver from X-Men Days of Future Past, where he's adjusting all these different things to blow up in the guys' faces and throwing this helicopter wing into this guy, and just orchestrating all of these things to happen all at the same time and explode once he's done being super speed. And it was a funny but also good action sequence, the same way Quicksilver's was in Days of Future Past. The song choice was very interesting, and at first seemed a little out of place, but then I was like, okay, this is a movie where you're just watching just to see a bunch of superheroes beat the snot out of other people, so I can go with it. If I could get past the weird song choices in the Snyder Cut, then I can get past the weird song choices in this movie. So, he blows all those guys up, puts a grenade in the one guy's mouth, he takes it out, he blows up. So yes, everybody blows up, except the sister and the brother who escaped, and Ishmael is left behind, but he turned out to be the bad guy anyway. So the sister and brother escape. There's this hilarious moment where Black Adam sees them, walks up to their car, because he had saved the girl beforehand when a rock was about to fall on her in the mountain whenever all the chaos was going down, and he blasted the rock and saved her. So that plot point comes up later. But anyway, he walks up to their car. There's this hilarious moment where they just kind of just look this way, stone cold in the face. It's not like just no emotion, just roll their windows up. And it's like one of those windows where you actually have to roll the handle. So I thought that was a very funny scene. But some guy shoots Black Adam with an Eternium rocket. Since that weakens him, he passes out. They take him back to the girl's apartment. I believe her name is Andriana. I'm sorry if I butchered it. Audriana. Just looked it up. Anyway, Black Adam's back at her apartment. Once the world realizes the power of Black Adam, that he is not a force to be reckoned with, Amanda Waller, orchestrator of the creation of the Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad films, Amanda Waller contacts Hawkman because she knows that Black Adam needs to be stopped from destroying anything else and killing anyone else. So Hawkman puts together the team of the Justice Society, which is Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. There's few things in life that are more fulfilling as a pop culture fan and exciting than a phenomenal casting choice. And that is exactly what Pierce Brosnan was. As soon as I realized he was going to be Dr. Fate for this movie, I was like, that is a phenomenal casting choice. And it was a phenomenal casting choice. They did not waste that guy's talent. His acting was impeccable. He was the perfect person to play Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is an awesome character. I love his character. And he was the perfect person to play him. So, thrilling, amazing, wonderful casting choice. Anyway, you got Dr. Fate, you got Hawkman, you got this girl named Cyclone, and you got Atom Smasher. Now, there's a very funny cameo, an awesome cameo from Henry Winkler, who apparently was the original Atom Smasher in the DC Universe, who has handed down his Atom Smasher costume to his nephew. And so his nephew's like the young, excitable guy. He's like, oh yeah, let's get ready to go, but he's also kind of nervous when he has to do something really dangerous. He's that character. Again, trope, it works. Cyclone is a really smart tornado, essentially, as Hawkman puts it. And later she says she was kidnapped by a scientist when she was 15 and experimented on, and apparently the scientist put nanobots in her body that allowed her to control the wind and produce wind, I guess. Do I have any idea how that works? No, I've got no clue how that's supposed to make sense, but it's a superhero movie, so whatever. You really don't argue with the nature of science in superhero movies. It's just not a battle worth fighting. But, Easter egg there, the scientist that kidnaps her in the comics is a guy named T.O. Morrow. And T.O. Morrow is an evil supervillain scientist who also created another superhero, a fairly well-known superhero in the DC fandom, Red Tornado. And since she exists in this universe, and the scientist who kidnapped her exists in this universe, then I would hope that means that Red Tornado also might exist in this universe. And that would be awesome. To see Red Tornado in the DCU would be flippin' sweet. What's funny is, they established some background for her character. They established some background for Dr. Fate. They established some background for Atom Smasher. But Hawkman doesn't really get any background. It has a name, Carter. I'm not exactly familiar with his name in the comics, Hawkman's real name. But he doesn't really get any backstory. They don't even mention the fact that he's a Thanagarian. In some iterations, he's actually not a Thanagarian. He's from Earth. It's a whole weird story there. Reincarnation. It's kind of stupid. But yeah, he's just... he's Hawkman in this movie. He has the suit. He can fly. There is a Thanagarian Easter egg, though, because when they walk into his ship, his jet, Cyclone asks if the ship is made of nth metal, and he says down to the screws it is. Nth metal is a metal found on Thanagar, the homeworld of the Thanagarians, who is, the species of Hawk Girl, the people with the wings, people who have nth metal. And nth metal is a material that can, if you wear it anywhere on the body, no matter what kind of, a nth metal shirt or nth metal pants or nth metal armor, you can fly. It is a metal that, if you wear it, it gives you the ability of flight. Anti-gravity. Not Uncle Gravity, anti-gravity. Moving on. They fly to Black Adam. Black Adam has woken up from his injured state, and he's just lightning-defied his wound from the Eternium, so he's good now. The kid really wants him to be the hero of Kahndaq, to be Kahndaq's own superhero. He makes the point that no other superheroes have come to help them fight against Entergang, who has been oppressing them for 27 years, Adriana says. And so the kid's like, you gotta help. But Black Adam's not really interested in that because he has no idea where he is. He has no idea what universe or world he woke up in 5,000 years later. I really liked the way they set up Black Adam's revelation that he's been gone for 5,000 years. It was smart because he looks in a mirror and the kid points out, oh, I guess you guys didn't have mirrors back then. You never got to see your own reflection, which is true. And his reaction to it, Dwayne Johnson did a good job. If he's like, wait, what? I can see myself like this? That's crazy. And then the kid says, well, a lot can happen in 5,000 years. And that's Black Adam's cue. It's like, oh, I've been asleep for 5,000 years. And then he looks outside the window and he sees a completely different city. It's not home to him. He's like, well, my home is gone if this is my home because this ain't my home. And so it was good conversation writing. It was good dialogue writing. Like when you needed something to be revealed to the character, it came very naturally, the 5,000 years thing. So I did really appreciate that. He walks through the wall. It's kind of a thing with him. He likes busting through walls, even when there's doors, perfectly good doors around. And he walks through the wall, and he sees Adriana's brother watching the Clint Eastwood movie. I'm pretty sure it's Good and the Bad and the Ugly. At the part where he's, on the draw, about to shoot all the guys, and got the Western music playing, and he zaps the TV. And so he leaves. The kid's like, well, you at least need a catchphrase. And the kid's like, well, I thought maybe you should say, tell them the Man in Black sent you before you kill somebody. And Black Adam's like, tell who that the Man in Black sent you? And he's like, well, the demons or whoever they see when they go into the afterlife, the bad guys, once they die. And that stuff in this movie is very prevalent. The whole gods thing and the demons thing. And, it's not a kid's movie. Full clarification. PG-13, yes, I feel like the PG-13 rating is fair, but definitely not like a 9-year-old or less children's movie. Like, the demon stuff is pretty dark, especially considering the fact that the villain at the end of this movie has a pentagram on his chest that actually is comic accurate, so they didn't just put it in there for this movie, which I was glad to know that at least. Pentagrams, no, it's a satanic symbol. Don't even look it up. So I'm a Christian. I believe there's only one God. So, the constant talking about the gods created us and the gods did this and the gods did that, not a fan of. It does coincide with the religious beliefs of that part of the world, I believe. So that makes sense. But still, I'm just not a fan of when they start doing all that. But Black Adam leaves to go see this statue that they've built of who everybody thinks it's of Teth Adam, Black Adam. His real name is Teth Adam. Who everybody thinks it's of Teth Adam. But we discover later it's actually not. And so the kid really wants Black Adam to be the hero, and he ends up doing something dumb to one of the inner gang guys, attracting attention just so Black Adam can save him and be their hero. And eventually Black Adam does, and they get to this moment where it's very slow paced again, and they do the Western draw out. Like they have the camera pan on the guy's hip with the gun, and then the camera pan on Black Adam's hand. And it's actually a really cool scene because they do the good, the bad, and the ugly Western music as the scene is happening. But then Black Adam just... If you can't tell, I buy into the campy, I know what's going to happen. I know he's going to blast them all. It's obvious. Some might say it's painfully obvious. I don't care. It's a superhero movie. It's a movie. This is a perfect, 80s movie. This is the kind of movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger would make if he was a superhero and was just had the powers of Superman except could use force lightning and destroy everyone with all those abilities. It's like Commando, but a superhero movie. Also, points to Dwayne Johnson, because I don't know how old he is, but the dude is insanely jacked. It's hilarious because the scenes in this movie where he's not all Shazammed, magicked up, so he's just his normal human self. It's very clear that they had to CGI him smaller. At least that's what I saw in the scenes where he was standing in certain places. I'm like, yes, that is a CGI fake skinny body. And the real Dwayne Johnson is the Shazam magic-defied Dwayne Johnson. And I give that guy props for staying that good in shape because, I mean, he is huge. He is a beast. I would love it if he fought Superman. The beast that is a 3% body fat Henry Cavill. But he fries those guys. Justice Society eventually comes. They have a big battle because the Justice Society, it's the Punisher Daredevil debate, it's the Ra's al Ghul Batman debate, and now it's the Black Adam Hawkman debate. It is the you should kill bad guys because if you let them live, they'll just go terrorize somebody else eventually, and they'll get out of prison and terrorize somebody else. And then the Daredevil Hawkman Batman side of that argument is you should not kill people because everybody deserves as many chances as they can get to become good. I've always kind of been it's a hard line for me. As a Christian, I believe everybody can be saved. I believe everybody should have a second chance. I do find it difficult though, you watch the movies, you want the bad guys to be destroyed, you don't want their evil reign of terror to continue. So I've always found it a hard line. Should you destroy the bad guys? Should you not destroy the bad guys? It's kind of more logical to destroy the bad guys, but it's also more ethical to not destroy the bad guys. Teeter-totter. It's a great moral debate for superhero movies, and it serves its purpose in this one. I don't think they ever actually settle on who wins the debate. I don't think it's ever a clear cut. It kind of seems like it toward the end, but I feel like they still left it morally ambiguous, and so that was fair. That is something that you can think about after. It's was Hawkman right? Was Adriana right? Was Black Adam right? But yes, that's their main battle. Dr. Fate gets in on the action. Cyclone does her win thing. Atom Smasher has some funny moments and then grows big and punches Black Adam. There's a lot of awesome action and fight scenes in this movie. That's one of my favorite parts about this film is that it just does not let up. You start it from the whole prologue and it really doesn't settle down. There's a few moments where you go, it's just slight moments of levity, not a lot of crazy stuff is happening, and then bam, we're back to crazy stuff. So it really it's a freight train. It does not let up that much. And I appreciated that. Also, even though Atom Smasher is kind of the idiot, I guess, of the group, he's not that bright and he's making all these mistakes, I think that they still let him shine as a hero. When he helped save the people from that crashing statue at the end of the movie, I think they still allowed him to have his moments as a good guy and a hero. And I appreciated that. One of my main criticisms of She-Hulk is that they were making everybody an idiot just to make Jennifer Walters look smarter. I mean, that's just a consistent theme with so many of this new garbage these days. It's you have to make this person dumb so this person can be amazing. They didn't do that with this movie. Some characters can be dim-witted, but they didn't make Atom Smasher dim-witted for the sake of making other people smarter. It was just meant to be funny, hey, he's not that bright, but he's still a good person, and I enjoyed that. Also, Dr. Fate in this movie. I loved his magic, and I thought his action scenes were really cool. One of my criticisms is I wish there was more. I wish there was more action with Dr. Fate. He's in the movie. Pierce Brosnan is definitely in this film. He's not underused as far as his character goes. He's just, I think, underused in the action sequences. There are 2 times in this movie where I was wondering, where did he go? After he pulls the trick on Black Adam to make Black Adam see the old version of Kahndaq and not the modern version, and then Hawkman comes and hits him. After that, Fate kind of just disappears for a while, and I was kind of wait, where'd he go? And then you see him do something else, he realizes that Adriana's the one who took the crown from the mountain, but you really wonder where he is. And then later, when they're fighting the main demon bad guy, Sabak, there's a moment where he shields from the fire, he's fighting him, and then he disappears. And again, I was just kind of wondering, where'd he go? And so that is my criticism. I feel like there wasn't enough action. And I saw what the one critic meant about it being repetitive, because he did use a lot of the same powers. And I wish they were a little bit more. I wish there was a little bit more variety with his use of the magic. I wish he did a few more different and imaginative things. I mean, all the stuff he does is cool. I just wish there was more of it. Also, Pierce Brosnan's voice with the deep effects when he has the helmet on. Oh, it's like the dream live action Dr. Fate. It's so awesome. He's getting their mess together, man. I am loving it. But they fight him. They don't subdue him. Adriana convinces him that they should talk. And there's a whole debate there about Adriana's telling the Justice Society, like, we don't need you guys to save us. Black Adam is our superhero now, and he's come and liberated us from Intergang. And where were you guys? Where were you guys when Intergang was, bringing their hurt on us? And none of the people in the city are supportive of the Justice Society. They're booing them and cheering for Black Adam. And I lean the don't kill the bad guy way. I always get the chills when Batman, just even as tempting as it is, refuses to kill the villains. And so I lean that way. It seems like the movie leaned the opposite, and I guess that's another one of my criticisms, is kind of the message of the film. Because Adriana essentially says at the end, she's like, it's Black Adam's darkness that allows him to do what you, Hawkman and the Justice Society, what you heroes can't. I'm not a fan of that, but it was more like Hawkman's response to her, I think, kind of helped that one for me, where he was like, well, we'll see. So it seemed like the movie was respecting both sides of the argument. Like Hawkman's like, I don't know if this is very good, and then the Black Adam and Adriana's like, no, we need to kill these guys, it's just necessary. And so, little iffy on the message, but interesting debate. Ishmael kidnaps the boy, the son of Adriana, who also has the crown. Before that, the Justice Society and Black Adam have a chat, and Dr. Fate's telling Black Adam, he's like, what has your powers ever brought you, man? Like, nothing but heartache. Like, the Justice Society's obviously trying to, stop him from killing bad guys, even if they're bad guys, because he is kind of a loose cannon who doesn't follow any rules or isn't really, shy about using his powers. He hasn't really learned the with great power comes great responsibility lesson yet. But the conversation ends in a stalemate because, Black Adam won't surrender. He's like, if you guys choose to fight, you guys choose to die. And Hawkman's ain't taking none of Black Adam's mess. Hawkman is all against Black Adam. He's sick of Black Adam's attitude. He's sick of Black Adam's just incessant need to kill people. Which, I don't blame him. Black Adam's whole shtick is definitely not the most morally correct one. But the kid is captured. So their conflict is, held at bay. They try to go save the kid. There's again more really funny moments where Black Adam is searching each of the Intergang's guys' futuristic bikes, the biker guys, and so he's searching them. And as he's not finding the kid in each of them, but he grabs one of the biker guys after he's dealt with his bike, and he throws him down. And Black Adam tries to say real fast his catchphrase before the guy hits the ground. He's like, tell them that the men in black, and then he falls on the ground, and then the car runs over. And it's like dark humor. It's like the Deadpool kind of humor, but I still laughed at it. I still thought it was funny. And the Justice Society is also trying to help rescue the kid. They are definitely depicted as heroes. And so Black Adam tries and tries and tries. And once he gets to the last bike, he throws it down, and there's this cool piece of trickery there where he opens the crate, and at first you see the kid and you're like, hey, yes, he found him. But then you realize the camera actually went to a completely different location where the kid is, because the kid is still captured by Ishmael and hidden in this truck. And so Black Adam didn't find him, and Black Adam is seeing nothing inside the bike. So he's like, drat. And then he goes and grabs the guy, and the guy's like, no, please don't. And then he throws him like 1 billion feet over at this mountain, and he's still in the sky. Meanwhile, Dr. Fate is gone to Adriana's apartment, helped Adriana's brother, who was shot by Ishmael. Dr. Fate helped him out, and he's sending Black Adam a message via his, helmet telepathy. Like, he says he can be at different places at different times with his magic. He tells Black Adam, bring me the biker you captured back here so I can destroy his mind and see what he knows, if he knows where the boy is. And Black Adam's like, and then Dr. Fate's like, you killed him, didn't you? And then you see the guy in the distance still falling, and then you hear him hit the ground. And Black Adam's like, he didn't make it. It's the dark humor, but it still makes me laugh. I still think it's hilarious. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but I think that probably, if not the baby comeback scene, then scene would definitely be the most funniest scene for me. Moving on, they regroup. Hawkman captures a couple other bikers. Black Adam at first looks like he's going to not kill them and not be harsh with them, because there's this funny moment where Black Adam crashes through another wall and Dr. Fate's like, you guys clearly didn't have doors 5,000 years ago. Black Adam's like, of course we had doors. How would we get in the rooms? And Dr. Fate's like, that's sarcasm. And so when Black Adam sees these two guys, he says, I won't hurt them. and then later he tells Fate, that was just sarcasm. And so Fate's like, no, that was an absolute lie. It's funny because like Dwayne Johnson's acting in this movie is kind of just stone cold, like stone-faced. It's not a lot of feeling in his words, but it works for the kind of character he's depicting. So it didn't really like take me out of the movie, because like just the nature of Black Adam, he's a bad guy anyway, and so, or he's a bad guy in the comics anyway, and so he's not the kind of character who would have a ton of like emotion and feeling, so at least not show it. So I think it worked for that kind of character. But the humorous moments do land for me in this movie, and that was one of them. But he gets the guys to tell him where the kid is by like dropping them a zillion feet in the air. Hawkman, of course, is mad at him. Hawkman's tired of him. Hawkman fights him, and in the midst of the fight, Black Adam punches through these drawers in the kid's bedroom, and he realizes that his hand was affected by Eternium, and he's like, okay, what's behind there? They pull the drawers away, and the crown is hidden there. So the kid hid the crown in the drawers before Ishmael captured him. So once they have the crown, they're flying on Hawkman's jet to rescue the boy. They get there. Another debate where Adriana, Ishmael has the kid at gunpoint, and Adriana is like, okay, I'll give you the crown. And Black Adam's like, you're supporting her, but the Justice Society is like, no, we don't need you to give him the crown, because if you give him the crown, it's going to unleash unspeakable terror. And again, I get both sides of that. The mom wants her son. She doesn't want her son to die. That's definitely perfectly understandable. But also, you can't really give the bad guy the crown, because that will also kind of destroy the planet. So what happens? Ishmael grabs the crown. He reveals that he's the descendant of the evil king, and he mentions Black Adam's son, Harut, and he starts to put on the crown, but Black Adam goes nuts and lightnings everything, and everybody is rescued except Ishmael, and so you think Ishmael's dead because his charred corpse is still holding the crown. So I thought Ishmael was dead. Once they had escaped all that mess, Black Adam goes back to the actual city of Kahndaq, and Hawkman goes and meets him, and Hawkman's like, how long are we going to keep doing this before you actually surrender? And Black Adam finally tells him the real story, that the kid at the beginning of the movie is actually Black Adam's son. And the kid was, given the Shazam powers to defeat the evil king and save the city. But once his mother was killed and his father, our Black Adam, the Dwayne Johnson Black Adam, was mortally wounded, the kid used his Shazam powers to Shazamize his dad. And I did think that was a nice moment where the kid was willing to give up his supreme powers to save his father. That was a nice moment. So the dad could be saved. And then the original Black Adam just turned back into his kid self. And then they have this moment where they're smiling, having a nice moment with each other, and then the kid gets shot with an arrow. So that's where the trailers were depicting, where they're like, the trailers are like, Black Adam's son was killed, and so he wants vengeance. Like, that's what the trailers were saying, is this actual real story. And so, new Black Adam / old Black Adam / Dwayne Johnson Black Adam, it gets confusing. He loses his mind, and then in vengeance destroys the evil king and like a whole city, because he's just rageful. So he was always out of control. The wizards ended up imprisoning him because of that. So that was a prison where they rescued him from originally in the mountain. It's also cool because the mountain has this hole on the top of it that kind of looks like a lightning bolt. I feel like that was purposeful. But anyway, Black Adam realizes that his powers, he's only ever just used his powers to hurt people, and he realizes that he's not a hero. And he knew that his son wanted there to be a hero, and Black Adam just kind of feels like, well, yeah, my son wanted a hero, but all they got was me, and I'm no hero. I kill people. All I do is hurt people. I don't think I deserve these powers. And so he finally surrenders. He's like, lock me away and don't ever let me say the name Shazam again to where I get Black Adamized up. So he finally surrenders. They get him, they capture him, they bring him to the Task Force X complex. I forgot what the last part of the name is. But Task Force X is at least that I'm aware, is another name for the Suicide Squad. So that is also very interesting. I thought it was interesting that Amanda Waller was tasking regular superheroes in this movie to do her dirty work. I didn't really understand that, because usually Amanda Waller, when she is trying to create her own, task force, it's usually like either supervillains or anti-heroes and not just flat-out good guys. So that part was a little weird. But anyway, they bring Black Adam to them. All seems right with the world. I genuinely thought that the movie was over. Like, I knew it was 2 hours and 4 minutes, but I thought, like, has it already been 2 hours and 4 minutes? I guess this is it. I guess we just end with Black Adam relinquishing his power. I mean, the other guy's dead, so I think we're all good here. No, we're not. We're definitely not all good. They discover that the thing that Ishmael actually wanted to do was die. He kidnapped the son because he knew Black Adam would kill him, which would bring Ishmael to Hades, and then Ishmael would receive all of the demon power of the crown and become the new champion of the demons and try to rule Kahndaq. So, yes, completely outlandish, completely dark, completely like, Black Adam's fighting demons, and, it's just like, it's the classic sci-fi. None of it makes sense. But I mean, this is, superheroes have always required a suspension of disbelief. Now, it's different when the actual, plot itself just isn't coherent and doesn't make sense. I definitely don't think it's that way with this movie. I think the plot is actually written well. And it's just, it's just this kind of stuff. It's not written badly. It's just, it's funny just how outlandish it can be sometimes. Also, it gets really dark in this scene because all the demons are infusing their power. It gets dark, and the guy, and then the ending, the supreme demon now, Ishmael, I guess, who's turned into the demon, who actually is the demon Sabbac in the comics. He's one of the alter egos of the character Sabbac, and so that is comic accurate. And so yeah, he's got a pentagram on his chest and giant horns, so that's definitely disconcerting. But he is the bad guy. They don't try to make him sympathetic at all, which I really appreciated. There wasn't any trying to make him, the demon stuff, sound like it was a good thing, sound like it could possibly help people, sound like it had any slight bit of goodness to it. No, dark magic is evil, and they treated it as such, and I was really proud of them for that. But once the demon Sabbac has awakened, he tries to go sit on the throne so he can, turn the earth on fire. And the Justice Society, of course, tries to stop him. The jet gets destroyed. Hawkman turns his mace into an axe. How that can work, I have no idea. It's awesome. I don't care. This is the moment where Dr. Fate disappears for a few minutes. Didn't really understand that one. But throughout the whole movie, Dr. Fate has been, looking in the future with his helmet. And he's been seeing, Hawkman in great pain, so he figures somebody's going to die, and he figures it's going to be Hawkman. And he eventually tells this to Hawkman. This, Pierce Brosnan's acting is so good. Dr. Fate explains that even as long as he's lived with the power of the helmet, which is, I guess, is 100 years, he says, he still is just sentimental, and he doesn't want to watch his friend die. He doesn't want Hawkman to die. Even if he sees it in the future, he wants to change the future. He doesn't want Hawkman to die. So you have this plot line running through the whole movie, at least since Dr. Fate and Hawkman appeared in it. And eventually, Dr. Fate comes to the realization that he can change the future. There is one right way to prevent Hawkman's death, and that is by sacrificing Dr. Fate's self. And so it's actually a really nice moment where Hawkman's like, "Don't you do it," because Dr. Fate has shielded the place where the demon is. He's keeping the Atom Smasher, Cyclone, and Hawkman out, and he's like, for as long as I've been seeing into the future with that helmet, I can't ever see past this moment. It's just dark, and it's beautiful. And that was a nice moment where he just you could tell he just wanted peace. And so he goes in and lays it out with that demon. He throws everything in the book at him. He duplicates himself. He throws his giant sword, Dr. Fate symbol thing, and turns him into the spike magic ball cage thing, and hurts him. I'm saying thing a lot because I don't know what any of this mess is, but he's flying around, punching him, and it's great, and it's awesome. And then he finally is like, there is one person who can defeat you. I may not be able to defeat you, but there's one person who can defeat you, demon, and that is Teth Adam. And he calls to Teth Adam from, like, I don't know how far away they are, but into Teth Adam's prison, Black Adam's prison, and the Task Force X complex. And he's like, maybe the world needs something darker. Maybe it doesn't always need a white knight. Maybe we were wrong about you. And that's one of those things where it's like, again, it's like, were you wrong about him? He is kind of loose cannon. But Dr. Fate uses this crazy thing to, like, magic thing to break him out. I don't know what it did, but it looked insanely awesome. It's wicked cool. To quote, little Anakin Skywalker, it looked wizard. And he breaks out, he beats up all the guys. And once Fate has thrown literally everything in the book at him, demon guy, Sabak just throws all his fire on Fate. And Fate is defeated. But it was interesting before that, Fate said that, I, agent of the Lords of Order, and I am actually familiar with who the Lords of Order are. It's the Lords of Order and Chaos. They're like this interdimensional entity council that exists in the DC universe. And Dr. Fate is an agent. He's literally a guy who essentially works for the Lords of Order. Of course, Chaos is for bad guys and darkness, and then Order is for good guys and light. And Dr. Fate works for them. What's interesting about him bringing that up is he's not the only character tied to this group. There's another character who was literally born out of both sides, the Order and the Chaos side, called Equinox. He's featured in Batman Brave and the Bold, that cartoon. It's essentially the DC version of Superhero Squad, which is also a great cartoon. I would advise checking that one out. Both of those. But in Batman Brave and the Bold, the character Equinox is like the yin-yang. He's like half black and half white, and he's like the mortal balance between order and chaos, but he's still just evil bad guy, which I don't really know how that works. But he's literally just obsessed with everything being balanced. But somehow that involves being all-powerful, because he became power mad and tried to trap the world in half day and half night. Anyway, he's a really good bad guy, actually. And it's interesting that Dr. Fate brought up the Lords of Order in this scene, which makes me wonder if Equinox might not be far behind in appearance in the DCEU. But once Dr. Fate is defeated, the shield gates dissipate that are blocking Hawkman and his crew out. And they get there, and they're too late because Sabak has already ran and punched, Dr. Fate in the gut really hard. And so that's the killing blow for Dr. Fate. And at first, when my first viewing of the movie, I was like, why did Dr. Fate just stand there? And I guess my justification is, I think he just wanted to be at peace, because he had lived such a long life. He played the old wise mentor for, ever at that point, and he just wanted peace. He just didn't want to, he lived a long life. He didn't want to fight anymore. But he died giving it his all, and sacrificing himself to get Black Adam to come and help, and which is ended up would save the planet and Hawkman, who's his best friend. So that is really cool. But he kind of just stood there and took the punch. And I also think that he may have done that, which is, I don't know why I couldn't just given him the helmet, but I think he did that for the purpose of Hawkman finding the helmet, because the whole, one of the main reasons he did that, and Fate did that in the first place, sacrificed himself in the first place, was to save Hawkman and not have Hawkman die, because he didn't want Hawkman to die. So by dying himself and allowing the helmet to kind of be kicked by the demon into this random place, it allowed Hawkman to take it and use some magic trickery of his own that apparently Fate had taught him. And so to where he didn't have to die and he could still help beat the demon. So I think that's also the reason that Fate just stood there and took it. Another criticism, I really hope that's not the last, I really hope it's not a first and last appearance of Dr. Fate, of Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. I thought I heard that Pierce Brosnan was asked or something if he would continue, and he said, you never know, we'll see. And so it's interesting that he didn't give a final, oh no, this is my, this is one and done for me. if he does die in this movie. But considering that the helmet disappears after Hawkman uses it, to me means that I expected that the helmet would stay there and they would, have another Dr. Fate, like a successor. Somebody else would take the mantle of Dr. Fate. That's not what happened, because the helmet just disappears. So it's very possible, and like Fate, it disappears in the same way. Like he fades away. It's like he got Thanos snapped. Oh my gosh, Dr. Fate's in the MCU. No, it's not, because DC's getting better and MCU's getting worse, and Dr. Fate can't go into a worse franchise. He has to stick to this one. So he fades away, but I have a feeling we've not seen the last of him. Even though he said that, it seemed kind of final, like he saw nothing past that point in his life, so he thought it was beautiful. Like, seemed kind of final, but if you're being honest, no one in superhero movies or Star Wars movies is ever going to actually die and stay dead, so I have a feeling we have not seen the last of Kent Nelson / Dr. Fate. But Black Adam returns. Sabak raises an army of the undead, so now we're fighting zombies and a demon now, so that's great. But the kid has rallied the people of the city to come and fight the demons. There's this really funny scene where the brother comes back, the brother of Adriana, and he's playing Baby Come Back, and then just comes out with his pipe and just starts hitting the demon, the undead guys. Is just that scene was good. And the kid just brings the whole army of people to come and fight the undead guys. So that's always nice. It's kind of funny. I'm hearing myself talk during all of this, and it's like, this is completely outlandish. Like, lightning guy fighting undead army later by demons who are trying to take over the city. I'm like, this is an 80s superhero movie. But Black Adam comes, tries to beat the crap out of Sabak, but Sabak ends up, kind of beating him pretty good. He has Black Adam pinned down, and he's like, "You're not a hero." And Black Adam's like, "No, I'm not, but Hawkman is," and then Hawkman stabs him from behind. And I thought that moment was awesome, because that kind of signified, like, Black Adam before was like, he essentially told the Justice Society, like, "You're not heroes," but now he realizes that Hawkman really is a true hero, and so he calls him that. And so I liked that one a lot. I liked where they gave, acknowledgement to, hey, Hawkman is a hero. The Justice Society are actual heroes. Black Adam may not be, but they are. And so I liked that. I liked that differentiation that they established with that line. But then Sabak, apparently the stabbing in the back does nothing to Sabak, because the axe before didn't do anything either to him. And so Sabak stabs Hawkman, but then you discover that the Hawkman that he stabbed was an illusion, and that the real Hawkman is using the Dr. Fate helmet to duplicate himself like Dr. Fate did, because apparently Dr. Fate had taught him that at some point. And so I did enjoy that. Then, like, eyes form on the helmet, so I thought that was interesting. I didn't know what that was meant to entail exactly, but I thought that was really cool. So he uses, like, the 15 billion different Hawkmen to, pin the demon down to the throne, and then you hear the guitars of Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, and AC/DC all play in a melodious unison as Black Adam, like the lightning, starts crackling. He grabs Sabak by the horns, he thrusts him into the sky, still carrying him by the horns, and he whispers in his ear, "Tell them the Men in Black sent you." And then he does this. If you couldn't tell, that was like my imaginary version of like doing what Black Adam did. Like, he's like has the demons by the horns. He tears them in half. Coolest way to kill a bad guy ever. That might be like the best bad guy death scene of all movie history. It is so cool. If you have a movie that is devoted to this guy who has a bunch of like Superman lightning powers, fighting a bunch of other superheroes, and then having to fight this demon guy who wants to burn the whole planet and raises an army of zombies, then you kill him by doing that. That is awesome. That is like, this is the perfect hype movie. Like, after watching that, you're ready to take on the world. You're like, yeah, rip that demon in half. Let's go, baby. Rock on. Sorry, I got carried away there. But anyway, rips him in half. He like melts in lava. It's awesome. Then they kind of have that moment where Hawkman's like, okay, Black Adam, just stay out of trouble. Like, never thought I'd be happy to see you. Come save our lives. Stay out of trouble. They also have this moment where they acknowledge that Dr. Fate was the real guy who just saved their lives, and I liked that moment a lot, where Hawkman would just grab the helmet. He's like, see you around, old friend, and then the helmet faded away. So I just thought that was a good send-off, even though Fate's likely not dead, especially since he's magic guy, spirit guy. He probably can live somehow. Also, I thought in some iterations it was the life or the existence of the helmet that dictated Kent Nelson's death anyway. So since the helmet didn't exactly die with him at first, even though it faded away later, maybe, I don't know, he's gonna come back. He's gotta come back at some point. You can't just bring Pierce Brosnan in, make the best casting choice of all time, and then just have him die in the movie. He's gotta come back at some point. But at least him dying showed the movie had stakes. Showed that, it's not like you just get done with the film and everybody's fine and nothing actually bad happened and get you actually invested in the plot. No, there's stakes. People can die in these movies, even if it's a surprising choice. So I did appreciate that. Hawkman then says to Black Adam before Hawkman and the Justice Society leaves, he's like, careful your kind of justice. Careful the way you dish out justice, because it can darken your souls. Which is very true. Like, if you keep treating the bad guys the same way they're treating you, you're eventually going to become a bad guy yourself. And they seem to kind of be supporting that. They seem to kind of be alluding to that maybe Black Adam might kind of become out of whack, at least in the post-credit scene. But that's when the woman's like, it's Black Adam's darkness that allows him to do what you heroes can't. And then Hawkman's like, we'll see. So, morally ambiguous. The Justice Society leaves. Adam Smasher has a funny moment where, when he helped Black Adam stop the statue from crushing everybody, he's like, we made a pretty good team. And then Dwayne Johnson's like, we made a great team. Adam Smasher starts to say something else, and then Black Adam's like, don't push him. Yeah, funny moments. Most of the jokes landed for me. He sits on his throne. He kind of tests it out, trying to get comfortable. Kid asks him how it feels, and he's like, wrong. And then he destroys the throne. I really liked that scene. Because, he kind of had this moment to, because for Kahndaq, the throne was kind of a symbol of tyrannicalness because of the king and because of the fact that the demon wanted it. And when he sat on it, he was like, this doesn't feel right, so he destroyed it. I enjoyed that. And the kid's like, so are you finally going to be our superhero? And then Black Adam, of course, says, I'm not a hero. Kahndaq has always had heroes, referring to, him and his mom, the son and his mom. And he's like, but what he needs now is a protector. So Black Adam is the protector of Kahndaq. He's like the anti-hero protector of Kahndaq. He's the lethal protector of Kahndaq. The lethal protector, it's like Venom, the lethal protector of San Francisco. At Black Adam's now the lethal protector of Kahndaq. So then the mom and the kid, they call him okay, you could be the protector now, Teth Adam. And then Teth Adam's like, that name's a little bit old-fashioned, because the kid mentioned that earlier in the movie. He's like, how about I call myself? And then you see the Black Adam title on the screen. So I thought that was pretty cool. They call him Black Adam in the post-credit scene, so I guess it just announces to the world, I am Black Adam, and you guys aren't going to mess with my city. Also, I love his new suit with the cape. I think that's my favorite look for him, is him with the cape and the gauntlets. I thought that looked really neat. But then, again, cannot emphasize enough, major spoilers. If you did not want to know anything about the post-credit scene, if you just wanted to know what happened in the movie, I just gave you it. I gave you my thoughts on it. There you go. But we have the post-credit scene now, so major spoilers, you've been warned. There's this machine that comes to see Black Adam and Kahndaq in the post-credit scene, and it has a projection of Amanda Waller, like a hologram of Amanda Waller just laying it out for Black Adam. He's like, okay, Black Adam, fine. You don't want to be in my prison? Cool. Kahndaq is your prison now. You step 1 foot outside, you're dead. I will send people to come and destroy you. And Black Adam's like, there's no one on this planet that can stop me. And then Amanda Waller says, there are people that I know who are not from this planet that can stop you. And as soon as she said that, my hopes were just going up and up and up, because I knew what was coming. Or I had this hope. I had the hope of what was coming. It was all but confirmed, but I had the hope. And then Black Adam destroys the machine, and amidst the smoke, you see this other guy with a flowy cape descending down through the mist. And he's walking towards you, and you see his silhouette. And it's like, oh please. And at this moment I was just in theater, like I was like, please, please, please. I was like literally like praying. I was like, please Lord, please Lord, please Lord. And then I heard his voice, and I didn't want to believe it until I saw it. Like, even if I heard his voice and that was his voice, I was like, dude, I need to see it. And he walks through the smoke. His suit looks amazing. It's the back and the red and blue. They glossed it up. This guy right here, baby, Henry Cavill has returned. That's also when the guitars of AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and Van Halen had sang in melodious unison. You heard the voices of David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar and all the rock guys. I mean, you just heard it all, like Rockestal Orchestra, like Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Oh yes, I can't tell you how amazing it feels to have Henry back. Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck is back in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He's also in The Flash. And now Superman is in the post-credit scene for Black Adam. Henry Cavill has returned. My whole video that I made, the DC discussions video, go check that one out, is me predicting that DC would trump Marvel, that Marvel would eventually fall, and that DC would be the new king under the mountain of pop culture and king under the mountain of superheroes, like they were before, because I'm pretty sure they were before, at least in the comic ages, before the movies all started coming out. And now I think we're heading that direction. I think my predictions are being confirmed. Again, this movie is not like I hit it out of the ballpark. DC's just like phenomenal content. Like, not like Batman Begins or like Dark Knight trilogy level content, obviously not. This is like below Aquaman, but still good horizon, and like good prospects for the future. And now that they've brought Henry back, I can't wait for more DC. And I'm excited to be excited about something. I'm excited to look forward to something. I'm excited to say, hey, I was freaked out in the theater at something. It felt good. It felt awesome. It felt great. It just feels so good to have Henry back. And it's very nostalgic for me because Henry Cavill, you know, I saw Man of Steel in theater in 2013 with my dad. Because my dad surprised me with it. He didn't tell me we were going to go see it. He had just, I was in the car, and he got in the car, and he was singing the Superman music. And I was like, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought he was singing the Superman music, from the John Williams Superman music, from the Christopher Reeve Superman. And he was just singing it. And I didn't really think anything of it. Sure enough, we go to theater, and he's like, we're going to go see Man of Steel. That's why I was singing the Superman music. I was like, no way, we're going to go see Man of Steel? I walk out of that theater, and I say something that I have regretted to this day saying, but now I'm kind of like, maybe I don't regret it anymore. I said, after watching Man of Steel, I loved the movie so much. I'm not even the biggest Superman fan, but I loved the movie so much. I told my dad, I was like, throw Marvel in the recycling center. Never had I thought I would say that up to that point. And I had regretted it since then. But maybe I should have rephrased that. Maybe now a better way to put it would be, throw the MCU in the recycling center, because we've got a new man in town, and that man's name is the DCEU, baby. Because Henry Cavill, my Superman, has returned. Again, I know Henry Cavill is definitely my favorite Superman. I still debate whether he's like the better one than Christopher Reeve. It's a close thing. I think Henry's definitely my favorite. But I love Man of Steel so much. That's like in my top 10 superheroes list. Let me know if you guys want to see that list of top 10 superhero movies for me, because that will probably be in it, and probably be in a pretty high spot too, because I absolutely love that movie. That's like that movie's actually on the Dark Knight trilogy level for me. And so yes, Henry Cavill's back, and I love how he says, it's been a long time since somebody made the planet this nervous, of course referring to himself. I love that so much. Because, I mean, that's exactly what happened with him when he first came. Everybody was freaking out, like, how could this, a being with so much power, be on this planet? And, like, we should be afraid of him, and that's the whole reason for Batman v Superman's conflict. And so then he's like, well, Black Adam, we need to talk. And then, you know, Black Adam just smiles, and it's just, it's so good. That's the only post-credit scene. Funnily enough, I didn't actually stay till the end to see if that was the only post-credit scene, but the first time I watched it, there was a guy who walked down in the theater and he yelled out to everybody, There is no other post-credit scene, and I heard another guy say that he heard there wasn't one, and then when I went to go see it with a friend today, the second time I saw it, he's also heard that there wasn't another one, so I took their words for it. If there is one, please let me know, because I would very much like to see it. I really hope I didn't miss out on that, even though I watched it 2 times at theater. But yes, that is my review for Black Adam. Overall, I think this was a good movie. I think it gets a thumbs up. It's not like a double thumbs up or like a super thumbs up, but it's a solid thumbs up. I think it was a good film. I think it was a well-told story and well-written story with good setup, good payoff. It felt good to have it. It felt great to have it. And it felt good to watch Black Adam rip a demon in half. That was refreshing. I mentioned in my last video of that person in the Polygon article calling all the sex stuff and She-Hulk refreshing. Well, guess what? Watching Black Adam go lightning crazy and rip a demon in half, that's actually what's refreshing. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you guys for watching The Son of Wonder. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. Have a wonderful, blessed day. May the Lord be with you. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. That's a wrap.